Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back. Good afternoon. Now, I'm from Intel, so I guess that makes me the tech bit of Worktech, right? And technology, I love it. Fascinates me. So I just want to give you a data point before we get into this presentation. If you look at a single transistor on the latest microprocessors today, that transistor will turn off and on 300 billion times a second. Right? Light travels an eighth of an inch in the time it takes to do that. And if you think you can get 2 billion on a piece of silicon and they cost fractions of a cent, when you get that kind of capability, the impossible starts to become possible. And that's what we've seen all around us, right? That's what people have been talking about today. That impossible, streaming media over the internet, smartphones, tablets, intelligent buildings, smart grid buildings, all that is what I mean by things that were once impossible become possible. And for us, we look at it as just being yet another wave of the Industrial Revolution. You know, steam power in the first wave changed the world, right? We had transport, we had machines. Electrification in the second wave, and now affordable compute and communications. Changing the world. So we'll park that for a moment. The part of Intel I work for spends a great deal of time with large Fortune 500 companies, be them big enterprises or government organizations or service providers. And we spend time with these companies in the executive office talking about how technology can enable business. So not just the fun, speed and feeds bits of technology, but what are the practical applications. One, this allows us to demystify what we do, but two, it allows us to understand what we need to engineer back to add business value. So during these conversations with the C-suites, workplace transformation started to really heat up for us around about 18 months ago. It started to bubble up. We need to know more about this. And we said, why? What's the problem statement? So this is how we've distilled what we were hearing from these executives. So I said, it's like we're in this third wave of the Industrial Revolution. The pace of change is at light speed. And these guys at these large businesses, they're saying, our marketplace is being significantly disruptive. Everything's changing. We're under attack. What are we going to do about it? And they're under attack in two ways. On the one hand, they're seeing traditional low-cost competitors gain parity with them, so it's very hard to differentiate. And if there's no differentiation, you start to compete on price, then it's a race to the bottom. Spoke to large German automobile manufacturers. They talk about cars from South Korea that you can buy for almost half price with fantastic service. How do you compete with that? I talk here in the banking community to retail banks where some of the supermarkets are getting into that traditional banking. It's hard to differentiate. And then secondly, per some of that technology innovation I just mentioned, established markets are being very heavily disrupted. Talk about those automobile manufacturers, the premium guys. New disruptive business models here. Organizations like Zipcar, where we have these shared economy models. I don't need a car, it sits on my driveway, it's probably unutilized 98% of its life. If I live in a big city like London, I can just get a car on demand. And they think one shared car represents a loss of 9 new car sales. So that means businesses have to re-establish themselves, right? Reinvent. Finance, think of Kickstarter, think of Wonga.com, etc. So they said, what do we do? How do we combat this? We've got to reinvent ourselves, right? How will we survive? And the answer is, we need to innovate. We need to be more innovative. That's what we've got to do. We've got to out-innovate the innovators. We've got to move more quickly. But it's very hard for big companies to do that. So the question is, how do they increase innovation, but do it with velocity? Key, right? It's no good having smart ideas if you bring them to market after everyone else. You've got to increase the pace. And a lot of big companies are stuck with, industrial age, static processes, multiple levels of approval, etc. So, with that said, if I look at what these companies are doing, they're changing how people work, right? Innovation comes from people. Maybe not the R&D department, but me, you, everyone, right? We all should be buying into this. So how are these big businesses changing styles of work? Well, for starters, we're seeing a lot of agile approaches being brought in, a lot of this swarming type of working environments where we'll have a problem, we'll bring a team of people in to focus just on this for the next 60 days, and that will be it. And we'll go in at regular checkpoints, and like a sculpture, we'll mold this thing, right? We'll meld it, and we'll shape it. Now, how many people here are doing agile working? Yeah, quite a few. We're seeing a real focus on de-routinization. What does that mean? The really high value work that organizations want from employees is not where you follow a process. It's that stuff you do where you're bringing your intelligence, your market insight, your network, your ability to influence to get stuff done to bear. That's what they want. But we also need to work in this very distributed and hyper-connected way. Intel, I'm sure, same with a lot of you here, a global company. We have to work with people connected all around the world at the same time, okay? Big issue we have is attracting and retaining talent. There's real competition for the very best and brightest, maybe even more so in a time of recession, right? Because you want this innovation to break through. But not just attracting people, retaining them as well. There's this whole debate of workspace versus workplace, which is really how do we virtualize the work environment? And then there's working with the collective as well. That sounds like a bit of a hippie term, right? But for us, that means how do we democratize ideas and opinions and share them amongst ourselves? So a brilliant idea isn't just locked in a stovepipe somewhere, but it gets oxygen, it gets life breathed into it. And then, of course, a little further out is crowdsourcing. So we see this, or these methods, as just an indicator of some of the new ways big businesses are trying to transform the way they work. And they're trying to put this into place. And the challenge is, here we go, very much to what Tim said earlier. We Google these working methods, and what do we see? People stood in front of whiteboards with stickies, post-it notes on there. Then someone says, oh, I need to send you the new top, great strategy. I'll take a picture of this and I'll email it to you, and that'll go and sync to iCloud or something in the meantime. So it's, all these issues. There's wires everywhere, it's cluttered. So in terms of the tech bit here for Intel, we look at this problem and we hear this issue, and we see that technology can be a huge enabler in addressing some of these issues. So I want to play for you a video now. It's only 2.5 minutes long. It just says, this is the vision we're working to address this. It's near term, so this isn't something that's out there, it's near term. So a lot of this stuff is already available or will be available pretty soon.
Here, create a message and send to Amy and Delgado Chang. Amy, do you see what I see? That's me. See if David and Rob can join us. Premier, send it.
Mr. Carson, can you book a room today for me, David, Tara, and Rob?
Amy, your coffee's ready.
Send it that. So this is where I jog every morning, and this morning it struck me we could build a bridge.
Well, there's something we could do. 120 feet across. So,
Like traffic that we have in this area, and he loves to control it.
Good job, guys.
show me the files from the previous meeting.
Hey, David.
So,
What you got?
take a look at this. That is the site
Corbu, I'd like to talk to you, Cara, Amy, and David.
Good afternoon, everyone.
You're something out of a dream.
Okay, so what you saw there was a lot of usage cases and the types of technology, whether it's gesture input, touch input, voice recognition, intelligent business assistants, and a lot of this stuff we're already rolling out internally. So you see people there connected via video, writing on a whiteboard or an electronic whiteboard, and that appears on someone else's laptop half a world away, then they can take that and they can draw on the screen or maybe on the tablet or whatever, and then that's shared, and at the end of the meeting, all that content is then emailed automatically to people. You know, and it's not too far beyond that where we start to get automatic transcription of meeting minutes, for instance, and proactive assistance that when you walk in the room, set it all up for you. So this is a near-term vision, and it's coming. So that's the tech bit of Intel, right? And what we're doing as a technology vendor. But is technology alone our salvation? Well, no. Well, it seems quite strange for a tech guy to be saying that, but a quantum shift, we believe, in culture change needs to be embraced too. And the interesting thing for me is audiences I normally talk to are IT audiences, and quite often IT has been tasked with doing the workplace transformation. And I've spoken to many organizations who say their workplace transformation program has failed because IT owned it. I said, why did it fail? Was it over budget? Did the tools not work? You know, what went wrong? Well, everyone went home on Friday, we put everything live, everyone came back in the office on Monday, and they basically did the same thing they'd always done. So nothing changed, right? So for us, we found it starts with goal alignment from the top down, right? Everyone has to be facing the same way and have the same goals, but you need to bring in a culture of innovation and reward that. You've got to drive velocity. There's a lot of, as I've said, industrial age static processes in place that organizations need to take and remove those barriers. And of course, you need a culture of openness as well. So if you want to share ideas and opinions, we use enterprise social for this. It's a great way to do that, but no one would use it unless they felt safe doing that and they were encouraged to do so. I've got a quote here from Dave Copeland at Microsoft, if you've ever read his Business Reimagined book. He says, if you can't help people change, technology changing all around them won't make the slightest difference. And that's true for an Intel, where you think, well, it's a big high-tech company, but if you're really fundamentally trying to change the way people work, you've got to go and address this. And an interesting stat for us is only 7% of Gen Y work for Fortune 500. We certainly find in Silicon Valley that even paying big bucks won't lure the best and brightest in. They want to go work in startup businesses and be creative. In fact, the financial reward side is not their number one priority anymore. I think someone was saying that this morning. I don't know whether it's just our industry that this is true in, but we certainly see that. So, we're a company that's also been going through this workplace transformation. What have we seen in terms of changes and how has it affected us? So what we learned through our process, and I'm just trying to make sure I stay on time here, is you need to take an integrated and inclusive strategy. And here I'm just going to reiterate what Bruce was saying, I think. We found, don't let IT just own this solely. You need the organisation responsible for cultural norms and work practice to take a leadership role along with the executives. Yeah, you've got to bring IT into this because we get the role technology plays. But for us, and this is a bit of an aha for us, was the increasing role of facilities as well, because we see IT and facilities just doing this at the moment. Because a table may be a table today, but tomorrow that's going to have a touch screen on it and be connected to the internet. Then is it a piece of IT or is it a piece of furniture? Right? And if you don't have all these three parties working together, you won't realise the dynamic teaming, the faster idea generation, and the value of kind of democratising ideas and opinions. So, together, this is how you address that. How do I connect with whomever, wherever I want, with full access to all of my information in a way that is as intuitive and natural as real life? So from the IT side, we build this around the SMAC stack. Who's heard of the SMAC stack? Yeah, few people. In the IT world, we finally have consensus from the analysts through the whole community on what the new IT platform is. First generation was the mainframe. Second generation was the internet-connected PCs. Third generation, everyone's building around social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. Some analysts will call this the nexus of forces as the third platform, but SMAC seems to be the industry vernacular here. Probably the baby of the bunch for me out of all of this is analytics, the use of smart voice-controlled advisors. We were talking about data earlier, right? To really help you make business decisions. I think there's a long way to go there. For us, we've made a big investment in social, which is not just enterprise social, but all the collaboration tools as well that I've mentioned. On the facility side, very quickly, we redesigned around communities. So what does my work group look like? and what does that community need. We had a one-size-fits-all. We found in a lot of our facilities by 9:30 in the morning, 60% of the desks were empty because everyone was huddled in corridors and canteens and whatever trying to collaborate. So now we look at the work group unit and we design around them. You need work areas, team areas, collaboration areas, phone booth rooms for private calls, conference rooms, and very important to us are these we recycle centres as well, part of our corporate social responsibility. Okay, so I know I'm just about out of time here, so I've had to kind of really whiz through this. Moving forward, my closing thoughts are, from what we hear to the people we talk about, this is a strategic business imperative. Your strategy is not just IT, it's HR and facilities, because it's a big cultural change. From the IT perspective, SMAC is transformational, and from the Intel perspective, there's a set of great new capabilities coming. Okay, so thank you very much for the time.
Terrific, Jim. Thank you.